So you're probably wondering why this isn't a most terrifying stands video, and to be totally honest, I just want to talk about Black Sabbath. To be honest, I don't want to gas up Black Sabbath because, it'd be too easy to make viewers scared of a stand that works in the shadows. And I won't lie, it is damn pretty scary, but, that's just not how I roll. And plus, Black Sabbath is a personal favorite of mine, and I just kind of want to go a little bit more in depth than just kind of making you scared. So let's just jump right into it. Black Sabbath of Golden Wind. The stand user, what is his backstory? And to be totally honest, Pulpo doesn't really have one. Well, he has a philosophy, but that's about it. He's not a very in-depth character. Which is honestly surprising because, if you know Golden Wind, he's kind of the most important character in terms of the gang, because he's the only stand user that we know of that can give stands, and I'll talk about that more when we talk about Black Sabbath's powers. But other than that, and Pulpo's philosophy of if you betray trust, God will permit murder, Pulpo doesn't really have anything. I take that back. Pulpo's name translates to octopus. Now he doesn't have anything to talk about. Jokes aside, we'll finally talk about Black Sabbath, the main point of this video. Black Sabbath's musical references, of course, stem to the band Black Sabbath. Most importantly and most accurately to their first album and their second track, Black Sabbath, a self-title. Other than the naming reference, the song kinda does inspire some of Black Sabbath's abilities. The song is about a sleep paralysis of either Geezer Butler, the bass, or Ozzy Osbourne, the lead singer at that time. The reason why I say both of these two is because if you were to ask either of them, they are going to say they had the dream. But knowing their history, both of them, they were always, cracked out. They did a lot of drugs back in the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, and Black Sabbath is no exception. They did a lot of drugs. Everybody did a lot of drugs in this band. So to be totally honest, whoever had it was probably on drugs, and I can guarantee you whoever is lying was probably on drugs. Back to the sleep paralysis dream. This dream could also be considered a night terror, but who knows. In this dream, a mysterious type figure that is just black, just like whole black. There's really nothing to describe this figure of just being black. Drags either Geezer Butler or Ozzy Osbourne to hell, and there's a whole, lyrical masterpiece between guitars and singing. But TLDR, a mysterious figure shows up and it scares the living shit out of either of these guys. And that ends the reference for Black Sabbath. After that point, really nothing connects back to the song rather than name and kind of the figure in the song. Another reference to Black Sabbath is found in the Jojo Veller. Araki states he was inspired by the image of a death god and Italian clothing when making Black Sabbath. More accurately, medieval carnival dresses of the Italian type. And looking back at Black Sabbath, to be totally honest, Araki really nailed the design of Black Sabbath. You can honestly see the Italian design, the Grim Reaper aesthetic, kind of the Black Sabbath one if you stretch it out a bit, but all of the references are very, very, very well done in Black Sabbath. But it doesn't end there. Black Sabbath is connected with the stand arrow in JoJo, and there may or may not be a connection back to the band when referencing the stand arrow and Black Sabbath together. For a short time in Black Sabbath's history, Dio of Dio would be the lead singer of the band, and as we know, Dio was connected with the stand arrows back in part 3, so there might be or may not be a subtle reference to Black Sabbath's connection to the stand arrow there. So let's move on to the powers. Black Sabbath's abilities are kind of straightforward. When given Pulpo's lighter and you turn it off and back on again, Black Sabbath will activate. When Black Sabbath is activated, it becomes an automatic stand. It will appear in shadows at random, or probably the best place to, catch you slipping and attack you from there. From what the anime and manga show us, Black Sabbath, when in shadows, seems to be almost unstoppable due to it not taking any damage. Plus, being an automatic stand, the user doesn't take any damage. The only time it does take damage, of course, is when it's in sunlight. Other than that weakness, it takes damage pretty damn well. Once you misstep into a shadow or just kind of screw up and Black Sabbath catches you, you're kind of fucked. it will open its mouth and reveal the stand arrow. And depending on, the person that you are, you will either A, gain a stand ability once being pierced by this, 2, die from it, or 3, be a stand user and get pierced in the neck and die. And if you're a stand user, here's a big thing here. If Black Sabbath were to grab the user's shadow, you're kind of screwed. It will pull your stand out of your shadow and begin to, pierce it. So if you're a stand user, you probably have a slightly higher % chance to die to Black Sabbath. Not gonna lie, terrifying stand, ridiculously scary, because if you honestly think about it, you encounter shadows all the goddamn time. So you honestly couldn't run from Black Sabbath, which is a terrifying thought. Now I'm gonna clear up some misconceptions about Black Sabbath's ability, because apparently some people don't understand it very well for whatever reason. First off, some people think that Pulpo needs to bite his thumb to activate the ability, and that's not the case. Like I previously said, it's a reference to Tony Iommi, and it doesn't deal with Black Sabbath's ability at all. Next, most likely Black Sabbath's activation, that being the lighter, can probably change. And what I mean by this is that Pulpo can probably choose a certain object that he wants to activate Black Sabbath. For example, if you had a shoe and you untied that shoe, Black Sabbath would activate. TLDR, if you have an object and you change said object, Black Sabbath will activate. And that is Black Sabbath's ability summarized. Nothing else to go on. I don't think it needs to be explained any more in depthly. I think I've cleared up some of the probably misconceptions about said abilities. So I think we're good on this segment of the video. Alright, it's the end of the video. You know what time it is. I'm gonna start speculating like a crazy dumbass. So, Pulpo's backstory with Black Sabbath. If you guys don't know, Passion is a very secret organization. Well, in terms of the higher ranking people of the organization. Cough, cough, Diavolo. Now, I've always found this pretty weird. Pulpo has the ability to give stands. It's a very unique ability. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I don't know is there a greater word than unique? Because, oh yeah, you know what? I take it back. Black Sabbath is a one-of-a-kind stand. There we go. It is a one-of-a-kind stand. That was the word I was looking for here. I find it very odd that Pulpo doesn't try to take over this organization or, try to make a rival gang. It's always been this thought in my head that seems kind of, correct. You have the ability to overthrow the current regime, but he does not do that. Instead, he's extremely loyal to Diavolo, being a capo, meaning two things. Pulpo is either super scared of Diavolo and has seen his powers at work, or 2, Pulpo and Diavolo are most likely friends or, acquaintances before the whole gang situation. It makes sense. Usually when you overthrow a previous regime or organization and you make it yours, you usually put your friends and people that you trust into power. So it would totally make sense if Diavolo and Pulpo and probably the other capos that we didn't see in part 5 whatsoever be friends with Diavolo before he was the mob boss. And why I'm bringing this up in the first place is, well, Black Sabbath has the stand arrow. This means at one point Diavolo was passing the arrow around his organization, or probably before that. And it only makes sense that Diavolo would give the arrow to people that he trusts. And since Pulpo has this philosophy of trust, it only makes me believe this theory even more. Basically, what I'm saying here is Diavolo went on a similar journey to Giorno back in the day, probably. And Pulpo was probably the Bruno of that story, which is weird thinking about, but it kind of makes sense. Remember, this is just speculation, but to be totally honest, it's pretty fun speculation. And that's all for Black Sabbath and Pulpo. Since they're not a main character or a main villain, they don't get a lot of backstory or explanation for really anything for them. But there was just enough for this video, so I made it. Well, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.